with red hot stories from post game, interviews, analysis, debate the hour, fun here at the Growler.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of the Walkout presented by Cincy Shirts. Paul Dehner Jr. here in New York at MetLife Stadium. Jay Morrison back in the homestead on a night that the Cincinnati Bengals beat the New York Giants, just like you thought it would go, Jay.
Exactly.
17-7. The defense holds the day and get their redemptive moment on national TV. There's a lot to get to in this game. There were certainly a lot of uneasy, tense moments that could have gone a lot of different directions. But at the end of the day, as sloppy as it was and as kind of ugly as it was at times, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, they leave here with two things that they desperately needed: a win and some confidence for that embattled defense.
Yeah, you did it. You wore the blazer. It was a blazer game. You are dressed for the defense, and I am in my well-worn gray T-shirt representing the offense. It was just totally did not expect that at all. It was interesting. The defense, Zach was asked about that in the post-game press conference. He said, "That's how I expect them to play," and he says he's seen that in practice, and he just same thing. He thought it was really kind of appropriate to do it on Sunday Night Football and announce to the world that they are back, that the personnel is back, getting Sheldon Rankins. They have their entire allotment of defensive linemen back now, but then just the performance was back as well because, yeah, the Giants aren't world beaters, but I don't care who it is. In the NFL, you hold a team to 7 points. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they are not world beaters.
No.
Yes, that is correct. That is not a great football team. Daniel Jones, not great tonight. Their offensive line, not great tonight. They were clearly missing Malik Neighbors. They just don't have anybody that can really win consistently out there. I mean, they had drop passes and balls that were skipped that were wide open. I mean, that's not a great offense. However, doesn't matter when you consider where this defense is at right now.
Yeah, exactly. And it always felt like it was teetering, and they came up with the stops when they needed to. The Giants would get on a rhythm and they'd be running the ball, and then they're going for fourth downs and they're picking those up. And you kind of felt like, okay, this is where it turns, and this is where the defense starts looking like they're going to look, or they had looked in the first 5 games. And they did, just except for that one touchdown drive that the Giants had and the DPI penalty on DJ Turner when he didn't get his head around, gave him an easy 1-yard touchdown. But other than that, they came up with plays when they needed them, or they got helped out by a suspect Giants offense. Like you said, skipping balls, giving up sacks, Trey Hendrickson with 2 tonight. It was no matter how it happened, it had to happen. They had to win. They had to get that kind of performance from the defense to have any kind of confidence moving forward that they can turn this thing around.
We've got a bunch of more stuff that we want to make sure we hit on. I want to dive a little bit more into the defense here in a second. I want to talk a little bit about this offensive line and offense in general coming back to earth. Sloppy on a list of sloppy plays from the offense tonight. Not what we were used to seeing from them. I want to talk about that Chase Brown fumble. And I want to talk a little bit more about, Joe Burrow reacting to his night, the hit that he took, and almost clipping 20 miles per hour, something that he's been wanting to do. We've got a bunch of stuff. The special teams also with a big night. So a bunch of stuff that we want to make sure that we get to there. But first, want to remind you guys, go to cincyshirts.com, use the promo code GrowlerPod. You can get 10% off all of the merchandise that you get there. If you just use GrowlerPod and the promo code, you can find that in the links that are up here if you're watching on YouTube with the QR code, and go get that stuff. They've got all kinds of great Cincinnati football gear. The Uncle Rico shirt's still out there. It still plays after this night. A lot of great stuff up there. Make sure you go check it out. Love our good friends at Cincy Shirts. Tons of great Cincinnati stuff up there. Also, next live show is going to be on the 27th, the next home game against the Eagles. That'll be a noon start for us, myself, Jay, Mark Shalafu will be having a big old party down there, doing the giveaways, $3 Cincy lights. Come get your day started, drink for cheap, ask questions. We're going to have a big fun thing, tons of giveaways. You know how we do it. It's a great venue down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. We love it down there. So much fun right down there in the mix of the whole party. A great place to get your day going. We will be down there on the 27th with giveaways and special guests and all of that stuff. Okay, one thing I want to specifically mention from the locker room here, Jay, and that was in talking to a lot of the defensive players. BJ Hill, obviously, with a big night back here in New York, meant a lot to me. Talked about, really feeling emotional going out there tonight and knew that he needed to kind of get his emotions in check, and almost sounded like he wasn't expecting to feel that emotional. You could see in his reaction when he had the hit that caused the interception, like this meant a lot to him, and he made a big difference. But here's the thing that stood out to me. The thing that they kept talking about as a defensive line group was having that group together and the way they implemented it. Here is the true media snap counts that I have. So this is an official game book, but this is off of the instant true media afterwards. BJ Hill, 51 snaps. Trey Hendrickson, 45. Rankins, 40. Jenkins, 38. Hubbard, 37. Osai, 36. Murphy, 30. Jackson, 20. 8 guys between 51 and 20. They came in waves. They kept guys fresh. You could notice that out there. You could see, Sam Hubbard talked about, this felt like we actually had a defensive line. It's a professional group, the way it's supposed to look. Before, they just felt like they were beaten down and just trying to survive out there. And I thought that showed in the second half, the amount of difference-making plays and the pressures that they were able to get. They're not perfect, and they're still going to be a flawed group. But it did seem you could see the difference that having that group the way it was meant to be and the waves that they came in, how it helped everybody be a little bit more productive when they were out there.
Yeah, and just having that group, the rotation is one thing, but the fact that they were able to get off the field, they had some 3 and outs and they had some shorter drives, and that just kind of shrunk it too, where they had their wind late in the game. And even McKinley Jackson, the 20, there was a couple plays where on the broadcast he had a pressure and they thought it was BJ Hill, but it was actually McKinley Jackson. There was another play where I think it was Daniel Jones got out and ran, and McKinley Jackson looked like he was moving really well, chasing him down. I was like, who is that running so fast? And it was, oh man, it's McKinley Jackson. So that's what they've been trying to get to. You give these guys a rest. You come at them, like you said, in waves. They all made contributions. I don't remember Osai doing a whole lot, but just the fact that he can go in there and get and spell Trey Hendrickson from time to time and keep him fresher in the fourth quarter. Just a lot to like about what they did, and 7 points and just getting off the field when they had to. A turnover, 2 big 4th down stops that are basically like turnovers. It's the kind of things you've been waiting for.
Yeah, so in the locker room after the game, we're talking to DJ Turner about that play, and Mike Hilton is standing next to him, looking at him and just like with this big smile and nodding up and down like, yeah. Like this like a confident sort of swagger that honestly has just been missing from a really beat up group mentally, physically, emotionally from what has gone on. And you could sense talking to them, like just having a day where they were the reason the team won meant a lot. Like it's been wearing on them, and they didn't feel like they were holding up their end of the bargain, as Hilton said this week. And it was apparent that the feeling was different now. And it can be the type of thing that they need. We talked about this week. They're not going to play Lamar Jackson superhero. They're not going to play that Washington offense a bunch more. It's going to be a bunch of games that look like this against offenses that are flawed like that. That's next week. Deshaun Watson, they can't get out of the teams offensively. So, it's just, you're talking about this is kind of what they need to do. They need to be able to exploit the weaknesses of some offenses that have issues. That's what their season looks like in front of them for the most part. And they did that tonight. And I think that is encouraging for them. And it certainly sets a little bit of a tone of, okay, there is a chance that this defense can be more than good enough to get this team by.
Yeah, and you get a sense that they're not just hoping, that Lou believes that. It was a total flip from last week where he was not bringing a lot of pressure at all. He knew he had that full complement of defensive linemen, and he was counting on them. And then you mentioned Hilton. I think it was Hilton, right, that had the other fourth down stop that read that little slant and jumped in and batted that down. So 2 huge plays by him and DJ Turner. A nice kind of it was a game sealing stop for DJ Turner, but it also came as kind of a redemptive play too after the DPI put the Giants at the 1 for their 1 touchdown.
Yeah. So a big night for the defense, and a big relief for the defense, and one that they certainly needed to get, and feel like they're getting headed a little bit more in the right direction. And so we'll continue to track that as they go forward. They're the story of the night for the most part, especially that defensive line that had some disruption. Okay, let's talk about this offense being slammed back to earth. This was as sloppy of a game as we've seen from them all year outside of the opener. Because now Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns are real dudes, man. And this is the best defensive line that they have faced. And I think that's part of a little bit of the concern here is there's been a lot of talking up how good the offensive line has been. And that Giants defensive line will make a lot of teams look bad and do that to a lot of teams. But there was just a lot of sloppiness that was self-inflicted as a part of this as well, beyond just what the Giants were able to do in getting pressure. Whether you're talking about, a Zach Moss fumble that was massive, the Chase Brown fumble that nearly got recovered. Burrow takes some big hits. He knocks his head on the ground after Brian Burns beats Cordell Volson not picking up a game correctly, and just goes right up under his grill. And they at one point they had like Mike Gesicki trying to block Burns on a big play. It was just Jamar had a drop on a critical third down. It was just a ton of sloppy, self-inflicted stuff that we really haven't seen from this offense, and they looked very much out of sorts tonight. That feels a little bit more like a blip that good Giants front kind of created, but not Cincinnati football. And Jamar said afterwards he wasn't real happy with the way that they won, but was thrilled that they won, but knows that wasn't the type of football that they want to be playing.
Yeah, I think T. Higgins is the only one that can feel good about the way he played on that offensive side of the ball. I mean, he had some really impressive catches. You're mentioning all the sloppy stuff too, the Cordell Volson hold on the goal line. And I know there's some debate about whether that was a legit hold. I mean, he restricted that guy, and it was right where Chase Brown ran through. So I thought that was a good call. And then both of those, the Gesicki one, that's Orlando Brown pulling away, and then the Volson one, he was pulling. So just not good there. Burrow, he was very blunt about how it wasn't up to their standards and everything that went wrong. And he wasn't deflecting, but he gave shout outs to the defense. He talked for 8 minutes and 5 different times. He talked about how great it was to see the defense play the way they did. And I think that really meant a lot to the offense. I think he knows that the defense saved him tonight. They saved the defense in the win at Carolina, and they were the defense reciprocated tonight. I think he feels that, I don't know if excitement's the right word, but knows that, okay, this group is back, and that was a big deal that they played that way. But he wasn't masking the way they played at all. He wasn't happy about it. And the blue tent thing, the way his head slammed back on the turf, I thought for sure concussion, he was done. And he said it was a surprise to him that they even asked him to get checked for a concussion. He said the wind got knocked out of him a little bit when he hit the ground. But he looked a little woozy when he got up, and his eyes looked a little glassy. I mean, he took a heck of a shot. So that was a big deal to keep him in the game there. The Zach Moss fumble, I don't know. I mean, he wrapped up with 2 hands. I don't know how that ball came out. The Chase Brown one looked a little more careless, and that is a concern because this team didn't fumble last year. And now they've had a number of fumbles this year. It's something that another one of these things they have to get cleaned up.
They had 2 lost fumbles all of last year, and they have 4 lost fumbles already this year. And
lucky it's not 5.
Let's be honest. They are so lucky it's not 5. The Giants had the ability to pick that up the worst possible moment. I wish I could. I need to go. Somebody has the video of Jamar Chase's reaction when I asked him what he was going through his mind when he saw that ball pop out from Chase Brown, and he gave me this look like you could see what he was thinking. Like, oh my dear God, I can't believe that we almost fumbled this thing away, and it gets kicked and booted out of bounds or whatever, however it got squirted out, and they avoid the total disaster, and then they finally get the finishing play after that. But I mean, can you imagine if they swoop that up, the amount of GOAT status losing plays, like there's just, what would we talk about? Team that doesn't finish makes losing plays at winning time. That's what was the theory. The whole thing was last week, and it's been a theme of this entire year. It almost happened again. It almost happened again, but they made enough of the winning plays to make it work.
And credit to Chase Brown, because it was a bad fumble, but a lot of times when a guy loses the ball like that, they just kind of slump and they're like, oh crap, big mistake. He hustled after that ball. I think he was a big reason why that ball didn't get recovered, because he slammed in there with those, like another 7 to 10 yards down the field, slammed into those Giants defenders trying to recover it, and that kind of helped it squirt out again and just kind of trickle out of bounds. But yeah, you're right. That would have been the story, that this team cannot finish, and instead they get a break there and then they finish. Chase goes 30 yards for the dagger, and even I thought a huge play was the first missed field goal by the Giants, because if they hit that and they tie the game and then the Bengals give it back to them and then the Giants it would have felt so different with the Giants driving in the game 10-10 than it did when they were driving and the Bengals still had the 10-7 lead. You still had faith in the defense. They could hold them to a field goal and then win it. But if it's 10-10 and the Giants are driving, you're thinking, oh, here we go, last second field goal. This is how they lose. So they played really well on defense. They played sloppy on offense, and they got lucky. They got lucky that fumble did get recovered, and they got lucky the Giants missed 2 field goals.
Now, they're coming off some games where they've not gotten lucky at the end of some losses, whether it was, stuff like 4th and 16, a call that doesn't go their way, or the hold or the snap. I mean, that stuff has not. We talked about the unprecedented nature of how they've lost and being 1-4 this week. So there's probably a little bit of other side of the coin that one squirts out of bounds in the fumble luck situation. That said, still something that just can't happen. And the roller coaster of emotions on Chase Brown as he goes from that moment of pure dread to what it ended up being at the end of then him diving into the end zone for the finishing plays. Another one that needs to get mentioned is the 3rd and 12. Burrow goes off script and gets the ball to Yoshivash. I mean, that is, a really big moment for Yoshi, who is somebody who's made a lot of plays and he's had his red zone thing, but it's still been very much the Jamar and T show. And you see him show up in these critical moments, breaking off his route, flipping it back the other way, locking eyes with Burrow, and then holding on and toe tapping right on the sideline. Those are the plays that build trust. Those are the plays that make you the dude that they're going to want to have in there all the time in those big moments. And it seems that's certainly the direction that they've gone with it. And he is that guy now. But I mean, he made, between the red zone stuff, plays like that, he's had a couple of big ones late in games. That was a really critical play by him to get in phase with Burrow and Burrow to squeak out of there and make the throw to him. We've talked so much about the inability to finish. That was a finishing play. The offense finally did it. They finally put a game away and didn't put it back on their defense again, it didn't feel like it was going to go that way at 3rd and 12, but they were able to pull it off. One other thing I want to mention, and we heard some people talk about it. Zach Taylor was really talking about how good special teams was. The combination of Ryan Rico and Tyson Anderson is like a weapon, man. Rico puts it so far out and so high up there. He gets all this hang time, and Anderson is there every time waiting on it. And whether it's to make the tackle on the guy or just to be standing next to the returner as he's forced to fair catch it, and you get these huge nets on these kicks, it's not just kicking it long. They're getting the net yardage on it because of the fact that they're able to immediately throw these guys down or force the fair catch because he's kicking it far and high. It's a hell of a weapon, and it made a big deal flipping the field multiple times tonight.
He had 2 punts that the Giants tried to return, 1 yard. It was amazing. I mean, he kicks it so far that it's amazing that Tyson Anderson can get. And Akeem Gaither got down there on 1 as well. That they can get down there that fast. Now, I guess the hang time helps with that as well, but not just that performance, that combination, but another one of those things that you wondered about with Ryan Rico, with having the mistake that really kind of cost him the game last week. Really important bounce back for him. I know everybody was kind of watching on Evan McPherson's field goal, the 37-yarder. Was he going to get the hold down clean, even at the extra point after the Burrow touchdown? Everything from that operation was on point tonight, and then the punting game as well. That he had 2 55-yard punts, and then he had a couple that he dropped right around the 10, the 11, where you want those short punts to be. He had another one where maybe the Gunners weren't ready for it. They looked a little lost. The ball hit about the 10 and rolled into the end zone. It would have been better if they got their heads around in time and maybe could have stopped that and pinned the Giants inside the 5. But just a huge weapon to have this guy that's booming it as far as he is, and then having the Gunners. And, oh, by the way, DJ Ivey was coming on at that really good, and he wasn't ready to play in this game, but he might be coming back and making that an even bigger weapon for this team.
Yeah, a big deal for them on special teams because it's, he's stayed consistent too. I mean, we haven't seen the reversion from him to some of the shanky stuff that we saw during camp that was sneaking in there. He's been really consistent and obviously really, really good as a punter. Just has, the one error in Baltimore, which is the unfortunate part of his story this year, is that's kind of the biggest thing with him, but he has been a real weapon for them there. Well, the Bengals exhale and they moved to 2-4. They got the thing they needed. They just had to win. Burrow talked about, he wasn't going to say they would have been out of it with a loss, but he kind of was saying they probably would have been totally out of it. They're still scratching and clawing even with the win. But an opportunity next week against a Cleveland team that is just a mess right now with nothing going for them offensively, a total train wreck. And a game, a place they haven't won a ton. But
2017.
But also a very winnable game when again they need to continue to have it, and you can continue to scrape and claw and get right back into an AFC that's still very wide open. It is still early, but this was one that they had to have, and they found a way to get it. And a night where the defense actually makes the plays. Want to remind everybody again, after these games, you want to get your gear, your Cincinnati football gear. Make sure you go to Cincy shirts. They have a whole section themed around tiger stripes, and just you can have anything you can ever imagine. Looking outlandish, looking smooth, looking whatever you want to. Whatever was going on with we had Joe Burrow. Jamar was giving Joe Burrow a hard time tonight. Asking is that all stuff free? He's like, I need to start living the life where I get my fits for free. I need to start living that Joe Burrow life where I just get the fits for free. And Burrow said, I cannot confirm whether this is free or not. He would not confirm his fit being one that he actually paid for. He said he might. Maybe I did. So you want to look good, though. People will know that you went and got it from the best place. So go to cincyshirts.com. Use GrowlerPod. And go through and get your gear, and hey, wear some of that gear. Get some Growler merch. We got that up there. You can go get that, pick that up, and wear it down to our next live show at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. And that's usually, if you do that, you're gonna get something from us. You're gonna get some free stuff from us, and that's what we know it's all about. All right, Jay, it is late.
It is.
It is currently 1:15 as I am speaking. And there's writing to do. Make sure you check out the story on The Athletic when you wake up. And we will be back with more. Of course, we'll have Tuesday, Balls Don't Lie, as we react to everything that's going on during the week as we start to prepare for Cleveland week. Big fun week of all of our normal stuff ahead of you. So from MetLife Stadium in New York, Jay back at the homestead. We will talk to you next time. Have a great one, everybody.